So I'm going to talk on a very different context, and I think what we heard from Mr. Krishna sir was some of the work that's happened around CCTNS and what happens when there's a real attack. I think probably I'm going to shift gears and talk about how do you go and prevent the attack. So I'm going to spend a few minutes kind of setting the context and then really get into what we can do to build a integrated intelligent network. So first and foremost, I think we should never undermine the kind of challenge that we have. And these are basics that everybody knows, that we've got 7,000 kilometers of sea coast, 14,000 kilometers of land frontiers, we've got 6 neighbors, 1.2 billion people. And this fact of 1.2 billion people will keep coming back and again as we go through and look at the challenge at hand. But before I begin, let me just set the context of what's public safety. Now, from a IT-centric view, it's about to turn data into intelligence and then to follow on actions to protect citizens and communities. And the key is about data and intelligence, right? And which is what I really want to go talk about today. You also look at, so earlier we heard about smarter city, and in a lot of places, essentially governments are using advanced technologies and approaches to anticipate and prevent and not just respond to crimes and emergencies. So key is, can we anticipate and can we prevent, right? And we've all heard examples of September 11 and 26/11. Was there a way that we could have anticipated and prevented these events? The other interesting thing when you look at public safety is that India is a democratic country. So security is not in isolation. It's not about the fact that we can have tons of people with guns and tanks and everything and we can go secure people. There are terrorists who will look just like us. They stay where we stay. And as citizens, we are only willing to take certain level of difficulty to be part of this security process. And as Mr. Behra earlier said, that development cannot happen without security. So as a citizen, I want to go do my work, I want to go back to my family in the evening, have my social life, go do my business and so on. And I'm willing to take certain amount of difficulty in this process, but up to a point in time. And in our country, freedom is fundamental to growth. So how do you get public security in this environment of a democratic country of 1.2 billion people where we all want to have our freedom and go do our work? And as I said, prevention is better than cure. So many of us go to a gym, do our workouts, we eat healthy food because we all want to stay healthy. Right? And public safety is no different. So prevention any day is much better than cure. And sometimes you don't get an opportunity to be able to cure. And if you essentially look at the part of prevention is around getting data, is around the analysis, ability to exchange and ability to collaborate, and then to go action. So what I'm going to talk about is how do we go prevent these incidents from happening. So, there was this stuff, so when Mr. Krishna spoke, he talked about in the CCTNS project, and there is information available online. Ability to analyze the data that when certain kidnapping or a murder that happened, who called who, right? And who did that person call? Now, which is in one context, right? Can we really extend that to a much larger context, right? Essentially, if you look at the ground reality, I don't think so we have any dearth of data. So you look at tax, you look at customs, banks, telecom operators, defense, immigration, passport. Look at it, we've got enough data. Can we get enough intelligence out of the data? So, many times you've heard this, water everywhere and not a drop to drink, right? So, may not be the same analogy, but in a sense, we have so much data, sometimes we get overwhelmed. But even if what exists today, and even if it's not the best quality data, can we really get a lot more out of it and start predicting events that are going to happen in real time? And the challenge is nothing short of finding a needle in a haystack. So if you go back, the 1.2 billion people, there are thousands of people on the road in buses, airlines, trains. There are events happening all the time. How do you really figure out that a 26/11 is going to happen at a point in time? And the job of the intelligence analyst doesn't get any easier with the kind of volumes that happen in India. So let's kind of shift gears, right? So we've understood the problem. We say that we want to go prevent crime. We want to go prevent these incidents. We have a lot of data. And how do we build more intelligence out of it? So I think first is, do we have a comprehensive citizen view? Do we even know who our people are, right? And all of you know, we've got this election commission database, we have a PDS database, we have telcos, we have banks, right, so on. But do we really know who our citizens are? And I'm sure many of our citizens would get represented multiple times. Then this question about who is related to whom. Some would be very obvious, so within a family, father and son and so on. But there will be a lot of the non-obvious relationships which will exist. Do these citizens go and use benefits? So there are multiple of these questions that exist, and the answer we all know, that we don't have a comprehensive citizen view. Hopefully, as the UID program gets rolled out, and it'll take its few years to go do that, we should eventually get to a unique identity for each citizen. And clearly, if that happens, that will be a very powerful lever for the government, not just from a public safety viewpoint, but even from preventing fraud and so on. That will really go identify who's who. So if we really, kind of move on, and so here's a context that I want to give around, which is the work that we did a few months back, and we picked up the Selection Commission database from their website, and then we got a database from one of the entities. And we started looking for, and we said, can we get unique identities and can we remove the duplicates? So if you see this example here, you'll find that people have written addresses in different formats. They've got names in different formats. So the person can write Raman Yadav or Yadav RK, and then the address is like 4C ISID campus, and it can be Block C, number 4, Institute of Society, and so on. So how do you really figure out that is it the same person or not? And then what technology does, right? Technology will really start figuring out that is it same or different. And then it says that yes, Raman Yadav and Yadav RK are the same person, Karan Thapar and Thapar K are the same person, and so on. And then you can put this into a format which the government will want. So you can have a standardized format. So let's say we get 5 different datas. We can put them together and have one single data of maybe 400, 500, 600 million people, depending on what we get. And what that will do is that will then really start saying that now I have a unique identity with almost no duplicates. And the way that this does is that there are fields in which are evaluated on a degree of match, and then you get a weighted. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the technology piece of it, but essentially there is algorithms written which will give a weighted average, and there's a cutoff, and you say, yes, this is a match. And then really it's not 2 people, it's like one single person. If we move on, we've got to the point of who's who. Now the point is who knows who and who does what. So I'll give you an example, right? And while there are many stories that go around September 11th, this is one that I heard. That 2 people of a particular ethnic origin were learning how to fly. Pretty close to each other. And every time the instructor went back to them and said, okay, now I'm going to teach you how to land, these guys said, no, we will do that later. So both the guys were interested in how to take off and how to fly. Now, possibly if somebody would have connected these 2 dots, maybe, right? Maybe they could have said something's going to happen. Now, it's about events happening in real time, and do these people know each other? So we've got multiple events so if you look at it, any big incident gets planned way ahead of time, is done by multiple people, and before the incident you will see incidents in real time that would have happened. If caught, then people can go correlate. Like this recent example in the US when this person had boarded the plane and was about to leave the US, and he was planning something malicious. And the US government caught on, and then they got the plane back to the gate, and then they kind of, got this person. So the whole issue is about who knows who and who does what. If we can get this in real time based on the data that's available, and we can go connect, right? So I'll give you another scenario. Right? think of a integrated data system, right? So let's assume the banks and the telcos and tax and customs are all connected. And the government catches a terrorist in J&K, and the terrorist is interrogated, then there is a debrief. And they file a 20-page report. This report has names of people, it has places, it has phone numbers, and so on. And they go feed that report into the system. Can the system have intelligence to pick these names, these phone numbers, these places, and say, oh, this person is also figuring in these 5 places, right? Can you go back and check? This phone number was, this person called this person, right? So the issue, I think, is that if the system starts throwing data back, and which is what I call data finds data. If the system starts throwing data back at you and saying, Mr. Intelligence Analyst, look at these 5 points, right? Now, maybe 4 of them are not really relevant, but the one that's relevant, if you can catch, then you can go prevent a major disaster. So I think what this will really lead to is, something like this. Can you get complex, non-obvious relationships that otherwise are not that evident? And then it is, so I can give you another example. There's a person who lands at immigration. And for example, he gives my address. And I'm on the watch list, right? So maybe he's not given my name, it's only my address. The system should be able to throw saying, oh, this address matches with this guy who's on your watch list. This guy is coming, let's go watch for this guy, right? So this is the kind of relationships that if we can go establish, then we have so much better insight in terms of what's going to happen in the times to come. And so what this leads to is an integrated intelligence solution, and which will really enable agencies to predict future events and then to be able to proactively act. So I think what's happening within the government around public security, that there is so much of information technology implementation that's going on. So for example, CCTNS, we've got these FIRs which are online, which is many of which could be unstructured data, some of it could be structured data. If it is connected, the system should have ability to extract that. And even within that local police station, if you are investigating and you are like connected with everybody else, and there's somebody who files an FIR, and you go figure out that this guy, he's like done a crime in Hyderabad, but he was also connected with the mouse somewhere, or he was in J&K. It gives you so much more insight about what that person could really be doing, what may be looking like a small petty crime. So I think, right, my message in this presentation is that if we can really connect and get that intelligence, then we will have a lot more, we'll be able to relate and we'll be able to collaborate and go and prevent these incidents from happening as against going and fighting them. And I think the part that will be the most important is about the predict. So I think we have data and we can always look for better quality data, but I think there's enough available. I think there is enough ability to go act when we know that something's going to happen. The issue is, can we go find out when and how it's going to happen? Thank you.